Across the country, as mortgage rates have risen, home prices have fallen and rents have fallen as well. Taking a look at rent.com, you can see the places in blue where it's fallen the most, but take a look out west. In yellow, that's where rent is dropping the least. The hot housing market certainly of Arizona, Idaho, and Nevada, where year over year the change in rent, it's only dropped around 2%. Median rent still about $1,600 a month. A lawmaker says he wants to help Nevadans competing for the few rentals out there in our housing shortage. Some landlords, though, have concerns about his bill.
Apply and then I don't hear from them.
In total, about $900.
We've heard from so many of you. You applied for a rental and paid hundreds of dollars just to get rejected or ghosted. Housing advocates say some landlords accept numerous applications for one unit and just pocket all the cash.
When someone is applying for a unit, that unit is then taken off the market as they're processing the application. You get the correct communication as to whether or not you were accepted.
Senator Fabian Doñate of Las Vegas is behind Senate Bill 78, working on rental reform with advocates like Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. There are many landlords sympathetic to the cause, but heated debate over what else SB 78 proposes, including upfront notice of all fees and costs upon lease signing, a cleaning deposit capped at 15% of rent, what can be deducted from a deposit when a lease ends, a no-cause eviction grows from 30 to 60 days notice, limits on eviction fees. A landlord must obtain a judgment before resorting to a collection agency for unpaid rent.
The COVID-19 pandemic hit the culinary union and our members incredibly hard, experiencing issues every single month with fines, fees, rent increases.
Prohibiting the ability to credit report damages everyone except the non-paying tenant.
We do believe it creates some unintended consequences with the severe restrictions imposed on landlords.
Landlords and businesses voiced concerns. If owners can't collect rent and charge fees, people may give up being a landlord and sell.
This would have the negative consequence of overburdening the courts with a flood of extra lawsuits.
And Senator Doñate says he's working with landlords in the committee to come to a compromise. The Nevada Apartment Association says it also hopes to come to a compromise as well.